This holiday season, give your loved ones something they'll enjoy for years to come. An Aura frame. It's a gorgeous digital photo frame that you can preload with photos. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code CityCast at checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code CityCast. This deal is exclusive to listeners and frames sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. And support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. CityCast Seattle is made possible by AT&T. America's first network is also its fastest and most reliable. Based on RootMetrics' United States Root Score Report, 1H 2025. Tested with best commercially available smartphones on 3 national mobile networks across all available network types. Your experiences may vary. RootMetrics rankings are not an endorsement of AT&T. When you compare, there's no comparison. AT&T. This is CityCast Seattle. I'm Jane C. Hu, and here's what Seattle's talking about. Today, on CityCast Seattle, historic flooding in Washington, Mayor-elect Wilson announces she's keeping our police chief, and our Friday recommendations. But first, I learned for the first time this week, thanks to our producers, that there is a new Courtney Love documentary premiering at Sundance. I wanted to bring this up because I wanted to ask Erica C. Barnett, founder of the publication PubliCola, what other Seattle celebrity would you want to see a documentary of?
The one that comes to mind is Kenji Lopez-Alt, who is a sort of local food celebrity, food royalty.
Yes.
Not from here, but he made Seattle his adopted home, and people should follow him on Instagram. He has great reels there. But yeah, I want to know more about that guy. What's his deal?
I feel like Kenji has such a good social presence that I feel like I already kind of know him, but I would definitely watch a full documentary about Kenji. Like, the Food Lab is basically like the food Bible in our house. So
yeah, that's his book. And yeah, all the Serious Eats recipes that he wrote are still like in rotation as my favorites.
All right, I would definitely watch that. Marcus Harrison Green, founder of the South Seattle Emerald and Hinton Publishing and a columnist with The Stranger. What other Seattle celebrity would you want to see a documentary of?
It wouldn't quite be Dave Matthews, but it would be his fans, just because I can't understand how they have to go to like 60 of his concerts a year. Like, one is enough. It's almost like an unhealthy addiction, I would say.
I have a friend who could be in that documentary, Marcus.
Oh,
yeah. My brother-in-law could definitely be in that documentary. Like, when he was visiting once, we drove him to Wallingford to like drive around the neighborhood where Dave allegedly lives, just so he could be. He was like, "Oh my God, he's just like a guy," and we were like, "He is just like a guy." I would watch that. I feel like it could be an interesting sociological experience. All right, well, I want to turn now to something a little bit more serious. The news of the week, which is that the atmospheric river has caused historic flooding in this region. Governor Bob Ferguson declared a state of emergency on Wednesday, and on Wednesday evening, Skagit County officials ordered a go-now evacuation for about 100,000 people. Schools have been canceled. There has been flooding and mudslides closing a lot of roads, including I-90 for a bit. And some estimates show that 5 trillion gallons of rain have fallen in the last week. I'm curious to hear from both of you. What have you seen about the flooding? Do you all know anyone who's been affected?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anybody who's been affected personally, but it is really scary. You know, I'm from Texas, and I'm from Houston, actually, and flooding is just like very routine there, but it is shocking to see it happening up here to the extent. I mean, you know, this is the kind of stuff that we in Seattle, which I think is like kind of a climate refuge in a lot of ways, and people see it that way.
Right.
And the Pacific Northwest in general, like, we don't expect to see this kind of flooding here and these kind of catastrophic photos. You know, if nothing else, it's a shock to the system for us up here to see something like this, because we just don't get like huge weather events. We have occasional earthquakes, but this has been really shocking.
Yeah, I mean, to follow up on Erica's point, I mean, just what it was a few months ago or earlier this year, we saw this type of thing go on in North Carolina and places in the Midwest. And so to have it up here, it just literally and figuratively really hits home. I mean, if there is any sort of silver lining, I guess, is that, well, at least we now can utilize the National Guard for what we're supposed to be utilizing it for, as opposed to what we're not. So.
Yeah, I saw that, part of the reason that any governor declares a state of emergency is hoping that you can unlock resources to help with whatever disaster is happening in that moment. And I believe we have about 100 National Guard members here to help now. I mean, I'm curious what's going to happen in the aftermath. Like, it feels like federal funding might not be as dependable in the long run as it has been previously. I know, like, after the bomb cyclone hit last year, the Trump administration denied Washington's request for FEMA aid and was also posting on Truth Social about approving aid for what he called patriots in red states. I mean, like, what is recovery going to look like? And, like, are we going to have the funds?
No, I would just say, I mean, just how asinine this is that it's being politicized, right? I mean, I think it was 2012 when Obama was running against Mitt Romney, and there was a terrible climate catastrophe over in New Jersey. Nothing was politicized. It was like at the end of the day, we are all members of this country. Doesn't matter whom voted for whom. At the end of the day, it's about
weather's
taking
going to
care
do
of
what
each
it
other.
does.
Exactly, right? It doesn't discriminate, right? So why should
Right.
we, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow.
Yeah, I mean, I think that going back to Katrina in 2005, I mean, I think there was a disparate response. I think that New Orleans was treated very poorly, obviously, and the Bush administration really bungled that. But I don't think that it's never been this way to the extent that it is now, where states just really can't depend on the federal government almost at all. What that means in the long run is just kind of ongoing decay. So, like, for example, if we don't get immediate flood assistance in Washington state, maybe they can deal with that, right? Maybe the state can come in and use some emergency funds and help people in the short run. But then over time, when you have these disasters over and over again, it just erodes the roads. There's just long-term consequences. And I think we're going to see more and more of those with climate change. I mean, a lot of the stories about this have focused on the fact that this is unprecedented. And I don't think it's going to continue to be unprecedented. So I think we're going to see just kind of a long-term erosion of the quality of infrastructure the more and the longer Trump is in office and refuses to provide federal funds that are meant for disasters, regardless of politics.
Yeah, earlier when you were talking, Erica, with the Bush over in Louisiana, it was kind of like, at least that was just incompetence. This is incompetence and willful cruelty. So,
I mean, okay, so at the federal level, it does not seem like things will necessarily be promising. I know, Erica, you recently reported on how when King County Executive Girmay Zahalai took office, he was in the middle of reorganizing things. And I believe the Climate Action Office had been dismantled, reorganized. I mean, will that potentially affect our county's ability to respond to disasters like this, especially ones that are related to climate change?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think directly because you're talking about a fairly small office. Dismantled is correct. Reorganized is not yet correct because I think that they haven't figured out exactly how they're going to reorganize that work. But the more you kind of throw things in disarray and lay people off who are doing specialized work, I mean, that's not a good thing. What Zahalai's team says, though, is that they're going to reorganize and that a lot of those functions are going to still exist, but in some different form. But I will say Dow Constantine, his predecessor, really built up that climate office, and that was a big priority for him. And we'll see how much of a priority it is for his successor, because he hasn't announced anything yet other than, this kind of mass shakeup and layoffs.
Yeah, as I understand it, that the work of that team is a little longer term. And of course, emergency response is who is responding right now. But I also saw this week that Representative Sean Scott introduced a bill to end tax breaks for banks that would go to, and that money would go towards wildfire response. That's not the disaster we're currently experiencing, but it did get me thinking about, are we going to need to create our own revenue here if we're not getting as much support from the feds?
I mean, yes. I don't. I don't. Is there? It's next question. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's only two choices, right? There's austerity or there's cutbacks in the face of, federal cuts, or we have to backfill that stuff and do it on the state level, because it's really hard to do that on the local level. There's really a lot of limitations. At the county level, there's property tax increase limitations. I cover the city primarily, and what the city folks always say, perennially, is we need to change this at the state level. The state progressives say the state needs to allow an income tax. And so it's going to be up to state lawmakers. Now, how much they're going to get done in a 60-day session, I don't know. That we have a short session this year. But yeah, I mean, it does seem like if we want to continue providing basic services, including some that we have relied on the federal government to do, we're going to have some kind of revenue. So I think that is going to be the big debate this session.
Erica, what's your gut telling you on whether Governor Ferguson will be amenable to that? I know he's been criticized in the past for not seeking progressive revenue.
I think that Governor Ferguson is unpopular for a reason. And I think one of the reasons, among people who voted for him, is that he's just really all in on austerity and really all in on no new taxes. I think he's not particularly amenable to that stuff. And I think we'll see that kind of impasse potentially again this year.
Yeah, Dad said we're tightening the belt and we are not bringing in anything new.
Sigh.
Yeah. Any other lingering questions you all have as this disaster continues to unfold?
I'd be curious to see how sort of mutual aid sort of networks come about. We brought it up before, right, that many people feel they can't depend on the federal government because they can't, and some people, particularly in more rural areas, are wondering if they can depend on, our local government. And so I think you'll continue to see neighbors helping neighbors and more mutual aid networks continue to emerge, which in some ways it's necessary, but also in some ways it's somewhat inspiring. I mean, you obviously wish it didn't have to transpire in this particular scenario, but it's great that it's still there.
Yeah. Well, if you are seeking information about the flooding, Skagit County has information up at skagitcounty.net/flood. They also have a river level hotline at 360-416-1404. Hope everyone stays safe out there. If you can just stay parked if you're not affected by this directly. If you are, I hope you are able to get to a shelter. I know that officials are really urging people to leave if they have any doubts about whether they should. All right, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll talk about our mayor-elect's decision to retain our police chief. The holidays are coming up. Maybe you've got family coming to town and you want to show them a good time. Or maybe you have a few days off and you want to treat yourself to a little staycation. One of my favorite things is to hop on the ferry and head over to Bainbridge Island. I always feel like I'm in a movie when I'm on the ferry, like whether they're the dramatic views of the Seattle skyline or just moody fog. And once you're on Bainbridge, there's a lot to do. Their downtown is super close to the ferry terminal, and you can just go right over and do your holiday shopping. Like, there's this amazing antique store where I once got these Japanese woodcut coasters that I get compliments on all the time. You could also check out the Bainbridge Bakery Trail. There are 10 bakeries and cafes with vegan and gluten-free options, all within walking distance of the ferry, and another 6 if you've got wheels. Go to visitbainbridgeisland.org and check out the bakery trail under things to do. Or follow Visit Bainbridge on Instagram at Visit Bainbridge Island WA. It's apple season here in Washington, and there's no better time to go check out Seattle Cider Company, which uses fresh-pressed Washington apples, never from concentrate, in their ciders. They're a local gem based in SoDo who have been making craft cider since 2013. Bring the whole family and go visit their all-ages tap room, which features rotating small batch and limited release ciders. They've currently got a vivid light cider line with new flavors like tart apple, juicy pear, bright cherry, fresh peach, wild blueberry, and ripe plum. You can also pick up a 6 or 12 pack to go. Personally, I'm going to pick up some cans of the bright cherry to take to my next board game night with friends. Find Seattle Cider on the web at seattlecidercompany.com to check out the cider lineup and view upcoming taproom events. You can also use their cider finder to find local bars, restaurants, and grocery stores that sell Seattle cider. Erica, you broke the news this week that Mayor-elect Wilson is planning to retain Police Chief Sean Barnes. So in a statement, Wilson announced that she's also keeping the Seattle Fire Department chief, the Office of Emergency Management Director, and the Chief of Care. For folks who might not be familiar with that, that's the Community Assisted Response and Engagement team. Erica, what do you think this says about Wilson's stance or her priorities right now?
Well, I think it surprised a lot of people on the left who voted for her. I live in the blue sky bubble, and people there are super pissed because I think that Barnes has made some missteps that have really irritated left-leaning voters.
Well, tell us about that. Like, I feel like I don't know a ton about Barnes. Has been here for what, like about 9 months? And
yeah, almost a year. So he was appointed, I believe, beginning of December last year by Bruce Harrell. I think there's a perception that Barnes and his police department really fumbled the way they handled the Denny Blaine controversy. That's the new LGBTQ plus nude beach over in Madison Valley. And, you know, the response from the city, and this is led by Harrell, was basically initially to try to shut this beach down because a wealthy neighbor was complaining, wealthy donor to Harrell. And I think that the police department sort of went along with it and, you know, did a raid on the beach, and
they put up a fence.
Yeah, and then eventually the city put up a fence. So that created some ill will, I think. And this newcomer coming in and sort of doing the bidding of a seemingly anti-LGBTQ mayor, or at least, you know, that's how it was perceived, right. Certainly. And then the other issue, you know, also in the LGBTQ plus and also just the Capitol Hill community more broadly, Barnes appointed Mike Tejan, who is a captain and who is infamous for driving up onto a sidewalk full of protesters during CHOP, and also was disciplined for sitting by, as far as we know, and letting people in a car he was in, a cop car, harass a trans woman. And so he was appointed to head up the East Precinct. That was seen as a huge mistake, and Barnes ultimately did go back on that and appointed somebody else. But, you know, there's a lot that was going on in the East Precinct that I think Barnes just didn't understand, or was perceived as not caring about the culture there. And, you know, I mean, he's came in from Madison, Wisconsin, right. I think a much smaller city, right. and has had a lot of trouble adjusting to Seattle's culture. Yeah,
I actually talked to some of our colleagues at CityCast Madison about what his legacy was like there. And they told me that he was actually a fairly popular police chief as far as police chiefs go. People thought that he handled that shooting at a Christian school well, I believe, about a year ago. And I think that's actually what delayed him coming out here. I think he really wanted to see that through and handle that and be there for the community. I also heard from them that it seemed like he got a lot of pushback on what he frames as innovations. I think one of those things was trying to introduce body cams to the Madison police force, which I think Madison was one of the last one of the last major cities that did not have body cams on their police. And that overall, it seemed like his tenure there was fairly successful. They mentioned that he had lowered Madison crime rates, like there was a 40% decrease in homicides. They had reached the lowest point in a decade in terms of the robbery stats. It must be difficult to come from this environment where it seemed like things were going fairly well for him to try and figure out Seattle culture, especially something as complicated as Denny Blaine. But yeah, I mean, it seems like there are folks who are already a little bit wary of what his priorities might be. What does it say that Wilson has decided to keep him around?
Yeah, I mean, I think, right, I mean, there's running for office and there's governing, and I think it was fairly overblown. But I mean, I know during the election, you know, there are certain people trying to paint Wilson as this defund person, and she wants to defund the police, this and a third. And I think this shows that she's being somewhat pragmatic, to be honest with you. I think in some ways this is a gesture of goodwill towards SPD. Whether they take it that way or not is another story. But I do think just in terms of potential governing, she could say, hey, a year from now, this was ultimately Bruce's person. I, was going to give it some more time to evaluate what type of person he actually was. Now maybe it's time that we need to to move forward with somebody else. Or if things go right, she could be like, this was a correct decision to do so. So I think that being said, that becomes harder if, let's say, she decided not to retain Barnes and then they end up doing a search and they find somebody and the person ends up being less responsive to community than Barnes maybe was perceived to be. I don't know. I'm always of the adage, there's no problem so bad you can't make worse. And so there's no guarantee, right, that whomever she may have decided to try to peg was, one, going to take the job, and then two, that person was going to potentially be better than who we have right now. So I think whether you agree with this decision or not, I think it's the mayor-elect's trying to show that she's pragmatic in her governance. And, we'll see how that's taken.
My reporting kind of has shown that internally, there are some questions about the way that he has handled taking office internally. He brought in a lot of people and created new positions for them at the very top. And they're outsiders, which can be a good thing. But I have heard it described as a bit of a bunker mentality in that he doesn't necessarily talk to a lot of people outside his inner circle. There are lots of high-ranking folks in the city who were like, I haven't even been able to get a meeting with the guy until recently. So, including department directors. And so I think that Katie Wilson is giving him an opportunity to change his management style and be a little more open. I mean, I think the Tejan thing was partly because he was blindsided, and he was blindsided because he wasn't talking to people who had some institutional knowledge. And I think that is always a bad thing when you are coming into a government that you've not been a part of for a long time. And this is true for elected officials too. If you don't talk to your deep state, the people that have been there for longer than you have, you get blindsided because you don't know about people and their history. And there's a certain arrogance that happens when a lot of times with elected officials coming in thinking that they're going to reinvent the wheel and they're the first person who's ever been elected. And I think we saw a little bit of that with Barnes. And I think that giving him 6 months or a year to course correct on that is totally reasonable. And also, I think that if he doesn't, there are going to be some real problems at the police department. And, in Madison, I do think that you can credit any police chief only so far with a reduction in crime rates. I mean, I've seen a lot of police chiefs.
So many factors that go into that.
Yeah, there's so many factors. And so, for example, there's a lot of women police officers in Madison, and he got a lot of credit for that. But here in Seattle, we are recruiting like 9% women right now. And that is way below 30%, which the city has set as a goal by 2030. So, there's just a lot of different factors that are going to go into this decision. But even people who were Barnes detractors said this is a reasonable decision given, not wanting to totally upset things right at the beginning and the fact that she legitimately needs to get to know him.
Yeah, it just seems like more work for her to try and find someone new at the very beginning, especially when she does always have the option of letting him go later if it doesn't seem like it's working out.
Yeah. And I was going to say to Erica, too, is to your point about the crime dip. I mean, a part of it was, too, that there was just a post dip in crime after COVID, everywhere. Right. So, I mean, how much of that can actually be put at his feet, so to speak.
Yeah. And I think the opposition to body cams in part was from civil libertarian types who just didn't want people to be recorded on body cameras, as opposed to people who thought it was a violation. I mean, at least according to a rabbit hole I went down last week of just reading a ton of coverage and listening to interview with him. It seems like it was coming from that perspective, the sort of privacy perspective. And maybe there were also people who were like, cops shouldn't have to be recorded doing stuff. But I think it was more from people who, don't believe in surveillance.
Yeah. Erica, I'm just curious, what is success for Barnes, right? I mean, because we just had Adrian Diaz, who was the SPD chief and had, shall we say, was not without scandal
The bar is low for success, is what I would argue right now. Don't have a major scandal that involves your coworkers, I think, is at least one of the bars for success.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what will likely happen is that police hiring is going to increase because they just got yet another giant pay increase, 42%. Somebody actually commented that they thought that was a typo in my headline and they were making fun of me. No, it's 42% by 2027. So I think, he's going to be able to claim success in hiring people because of those giant raises. That will be a claim of success. But yeah, what will success be? I don't know, improving morale within the police department, recruiting people who are higher quality and don't leave immediately, and just actually talking to the community as opposed to talking at them. And, and implementing maybe some innovations in the police department, which so far I'm not terribly excited about Seattle-centric policing because it seems like it's the same thing as Madison-centric policing. And I'm not terribly excited.
Same idea, different place.
Yeah. And I'm not terribly excited about stratified policing because it seems like basic policing, you prioritize higher priority areas with more crime first.
So more police in black areas. Awesome.
Yeah.
This is the thing. Like, it's hotspot policing. It's that kind of stuff. And none of that is new. I mean, it's decades old. So, I'm harumphing over here. That would be my definition of success. But, I think other people would probably have a different definition. I just would like to see some genuine accountability and reform in the police department and not so many payouts on lawsuits because they keep abusing people or violating their own policies.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't seem like we necessarily got more accountability in the new contract, but...
Way for outgoing city council members to vote on that contract, by the way. But anyway.
Yeah.
Well, for better or for worse, this is the plan that we have going into January. So we'll see what Wilson's decision means for the city as this unfolds in coming months. Let's leave it there for now. Take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about our Friday recommendations. The holidays are coming up, and if you're looking for something festive to do, check out the Argosy Cruises Christmas Ship Festival. You'll sail aboard the Spirit of Seattle with hundreds of twinkly lights as she visits 40 waterfront communities across Puget Sound. On board, you'll be surrounded by festive fun. There are going to be live holiday choir performances, warm drinks, cozy indoor seating, gorgeous views, and even a visit from Santa. With departure locations in downtown Seattle, Kirkland, Renton, Ballard, Leschi, Edmonds, South Lake Union, and Tacoma, there's a sailing for everyone. And every ticket supports the season of giving, with a portion of proceeds donated to the Seattle Times Fund for those in need, helping several local charities. Make some new holiday memories and book your Christmas ship cruise at argosycruises.com. So news came out this week that Wild Waves is closing. So if you all are not familiar, it is a theme park and water park in Federal Way. It opened in 1977, beloved by Washingtonians. They're going to be open for one more season, but they're going to close at the end of 2026. So people can plan to live it up for one more season. Marcus, Erica, have you all been? Are you all like Wild Waves people?
It's been a while. It has been a while. My memories of Wild Waves is like at the end of the year in elementary school. If, for the kids who got over a certain grade point average, you were allowed to go all expenses paid is what the teacher said.
Ooh.
To Wild Waves. And,
all $20 or whatever.
Hey, it was a lot of money back then in sixth grade. Okay. So that is, yeah. So it has been a month of Sundays since I was last there, but fun memories. It also kind of sucks that just as the light rail is going out the Federal Way, it's a Federal Way mainstay will be closing. So anyway.
Although, can you imagine like wearing a wet bathing suit on light rail? It seems a little bit brutal.
It's called a Tuesday in the Green household. But anyway.
Well, I know that it was beloved by many, or I guess I should say still is beloved by many. Folks were sad to hear about its closing, but it's nice that at least we'll have one more summer to enjoy it if you are a water park person. Also, listeners, if you have stories about Wild Waves, we would love to hear them. But maybe I'll go check it out before they close.
Yeah, and there are micro water parks elsewhere. There's a water park in Renton, I believe in Des Moines as well. So there, if you can get your water park fix, and for $5, I'll let you into my backyard and I'll spray you down with a hose. So, anyway,
another Washington attraction that has come up this week. The New York Times released the list of all the best dishes in the U.S. and Seattle made the list twice. So it had the Dungeness crab fried rice from Tomo, which I will say is one of the best things I've ever tasted. So spot on there, New York Times. And it also had a lamb neck korma pie from Little Beast in Ballard. I'm curious if you all have tried either of these or what you think the single best dish at a Seattle restaurant is.
wow.
You know what immediately comes to mind is the chicken adobo at Oriental Mart in the Pike Place Market. I just love that. It's never going to probably make any lists, but it's a just absolutely outstanding place in Pike Place Market that has been there forever. But yeah, I was excited to see a couple Seattle restaurants on the list. We don't make a lot of best restaurant or best dish lists nationally, and I have not tried either, but now I'm excited to go to both of those places and check them out.
Yeah, I have not tried either, but I think for me it would be the curry chicken at Island Soul in Columbia City. It's a delectable dish to me. So, and it's some good comfort food, and on a journalist's salary, you can semi-afford it. So. Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds really good. And also feels very befitting of the season. I just want a warm bowl of something delicious in my belly right now.
Yes.
So I'm also curious, what are you all up to lately? Any fun weekend plans? Anything you recommend checking out or doing for our listeners?
Well, my partner is Jewish, and so she is going to order Hanukkah meal on Sunday. So we're going to have latkes and brisket and some other delectable gems. If either one of you want to come, let me know.
Amazing.
I saw a recipe for latke fried Oreos the other day.
Really?
Whoa.
Which is basically, a fried Oreo, except the crust is shredded potatoes.
Oh my goodness. Okay. That actually sounds...
We're flying too close to the sun.
I don't know if I can vouch for it. I'm just saying I saw
I'm willing to try it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say no to trying it, but amazing.
But in terms of things that people don't need to be invited to, that you can just go to for the weekend.
Everyone go to Marcus's house.
I'm going to start charging. But, Art Noir is having this in the Central District. They're having this great art exhibit called Black Clay. And it's 20 different artists who have been able to mold clay into narrative storytelling.
Oh,
so
that's cool.
It should be an awesome event. And it is free 99, which not a lot of things are these days. So there you go.
Love that. What about you, Erica? Up to anything fun?
The actual truth is that I'm going to be staying inside all weekend because of the atmospheric river. But if you want to get out there, Federal Way light rail we were just talking about just opened, and it's not free 99, but it is. I think it's $3 fare now, so pretty cheap. Cheap ride. Go out to the various stations that just opened up. Check them out and maybe patronize some local businesses. Again, don't understand why, or I do understand why, but I don't love that Federal Way light rail is on the freeway. That is just a comment directed at Dave Upthegrove and no one else. So, but yeah, I mean, it's exciting. Light rail actually is opening. We are slowly but surely building out a system.
It should have been here 20 years ago, but whatever.
All right. My one thing that I'll plug is the punk rock flea market. It's $1 admission. It runs Friday, Saturday, Sunday on the Hill. Always great weirdo art there. I hear that there are going to be some Hot Rat Summer pieces of art being sold there. So that's what I'm hoping to catch before they sell out, possibly. But always a good time. Always nice to just support local artists, especially if y'all are looking for some holiday gifts and want to not buy them from a multi-billion-dollar organization. All right. Well, I hope everyone has a great weekend. Marcus Harrison Green, thank you so much for being here.
Always a great time, Jen.
And Erica C. Barnett, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
That's all for today here at CityCast Seattle. Our executive producer is Ashley Smith. Our creative producers are Sam J. Leeds and Liam Billingham. Post-production this week was done by PJ Shahamat and Lizzie Goldsmith. And our host is me, Jane C. Hu. Music is by Aaron Taylor Waldman, All the Kimonos, and Los Mocachetes, with additional mixing by Tyler Lindgren. Our ad music is by Sven Lindvall and Sarah the Instrumentalist from Epidemic Sounds via Getty Images. All right, listeners, remember, we want to hear from you. Send us your Wild Waves memories. Send an email to seattle@citycast.fm. You can also text or leave us a voicemail on the CityCast hotline at 206-880-3931. Until next week, see ya, Seattle.